Hey, what is going on, guys? DC Dubs here, and today I'm here with the top 5 worst survivor perks in Dead by Daylight. So, there are a lot of terrible perks in this game, but the developers have recently buffed a lot of the terrible perks on both survivor and killer side. After playtesting them for the past few days, and finding out what I still think is terrible and what I think is good now, I have assembled a list of my top 5 worst survivor perks in Dead by Daylight. Now, granted, remember, this is my own personal opinion. Perks that I find not very good, you may find great, and perks you find great, I may find terrible. So remember, this is my personal opinion. If you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Let me know your top 5 in the comment section below, and without further ado, let's get right into the list. Personally, I think Saboteur is the perfect example of a perk that's gone from 100 to 0 over the past 2 years. Back in the day, you could use this perk to sabotage every single hook in the map, making the killer unable to sacrifice any survivors unless they could get to the basement hooks, since those hooks were not able to be destroyed. On top of that, if you were playing against a trapper, you could also sabotage all of his bear traps, rendering his power absolutely useless. So what makes this perk so bad? Well, the community and the developers saw this as way too OP, so they nerfed it by making hooks and bear traps respawn after 3 minutes, and if you are using Hangman's trick, after 30 seconds. On top of all of that, with an ever-growing killer pool and trappers still being the only killer affected by Saboteur, you become less and less likely to gain the second benefit of this perk every single time a new killer comes out. So due to all those reasons, Saboteur comes in at number 5. Calm Spirit is probably the most situational perk in the game. First off, the thing it does against every killer is it prevents you from screaming when you take damage, which really isn't that useful because the killer's still right there. They can already see you, so not screaming really doesn't help you. Now, the things it counters that's situational that is really good if you have it in these situations is against the Clown, Doctor, and Spies from the Shadows. First off, Spies from the Shadows is a very, very underused killer perk that I think should be used more, but nevertheless isn't very used, so you are never really going to ever get to counter Spies from the Shadows with it. And then the two killers you counter, Clown and Doctor, are both pretty well played, so you will get use out of this perk, but you can't use it every single game. It prevents you from screaming from madness when the Doctor shocks you, and it prevents you from screaming from intoxication when the Clown throws bottles at you, which is good for hiding. But if you don't play against one of these two killers, then it's just a waste of a perk. It's absolutely useless, and it comes in at number 4. Left Behind is good for one thing. If your teammates all die before you get enough gens for the hatch, you can use it to finish up a gen or two, get the hatch, and get out. The problem is, it's better just to run a perk that's going to help you and your team survive so you don't get into that bad of a situation. The idea of the perk is good. You're the last man standing, it's you versus the killer, you're at the disadvantage, but you use this perk to rush gens, get the door, and get out. But no one uses it, and no one would use it like that. The only way to properly use this perk is if there's not enough gens done for the hatch, use it to rush some gens, get the hatch, and get out. The problem with Soul Survivor is that it has almost the exact same activation requirements as the Left Behind, but has nowhere near as good a reward. The one benefit it does have, however, is that it activates after one survivor dies and gets better as a second and third survivors die. But the downside is you still need to have your entire team dead to gain the full benefits of this perk. On top of that, there is only 2 aura reading perks that killers really run, the first of which being Nurse's Calling, which one stack will cut Nurse's Calling down to 4-meter range, making it basically useless. But for barbecue and chili, however, that is a whole nother can of worms. In order to completely counter out barbecue and chili, you would need all 3 stacks. The problem is, in order to have all 3 stacks, all 3 of your teammates need to be dead. And barbecue and chili's aura reading abilities activate when you hook a survivor. So it literally is impossible to completely counter out barbecue and chili, because when these third and last survivor gets hooked for the last time, he's still not technically dead until the sacrifice is complete. So you will only have 2 stacks, meaning the killer can still see you with barbecue and chili. So the only perk that this really counters is Nurse's Calling. Now I know Sole Survivor is supposed to be used in ties with Object of Obsession, but that is just an entire risky can of worms that it's not even worth doing. All it does is get you killed. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that this perk comes in at number 1. The only real benefit it gives you is that you can repeatedly stand yourself up from dying state if you have enough time to recover. The problem is, if the killer knows you're running No Mither, the killer isn't gonna slug you. The only real way to get any use out of this perk is to run it alongside Decisive Strike, Dead Hard, and Resilience. Resilience obviously because it increases your action speed while injured, Dead Hard obviously because it gives you the jump forward while injured, and then Decisive Strike and No Mither combo together really well because they combo out each other's weaknesses. Whereas you never want to slug a No Mither, you never want to pick up a Decisive Strike. So you make the killer have to choose between eating a Decisive Strike or slugging a No Mither. Obviously they're normally just going to pick you up, eat the Decisive Strike, and then chase you down and pick you up again. But it forces a Decisive Strike, so that's a really nice benefit, but it's still really not worth it. It's a lot of high risk with low reward, where you could just run a normal build and get the same kind of benefit. I don't know. If you're looking for something fun to do that's different, it's a fun build to try, but if you're trying to win, it's really not that competitive of a build. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I will be doing a lot more top 5 soon. The next one's probably going to be the top 5 worst killer perks or top 5 best killers. I really don't know. It all depends on what I feel like recording. So if you guys enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.